Hey friends, the markets are rising again. We're back at $85,000. And the tariffs from the USA on China are likely to be reduced as well. Global liquidity is really going wild, but now we're going to talk about why we shouldn't be too optimistic. Just because we've risen a bit here and we see a few good things, it doesn't mean that we're going to reach new all-time highs now. We'll clarify what's going on here in the video, but first I need your support. In the form of a like and a comment, you know what to do, friends. Especially in these tough times, I rely on you all the more. Thank you very much for that. I mean, I don't want to spoil your mood here and talk anything down. I'm also happy about this rise and that we're slowly seeing better prices again, but we remain rational. When other people fall into form, I make no exceptions there. From a technical chart perspective, it looks so far, I would say it still looks good for Bitcoin. It is very dangerous if we should fall below this yellow zone. If we should break through sustainably, then we would probably also fall below the 50-day moving average. And that would be somewhere around $45,000. I don't think anyone wants to see that here. That's why this support zone is extremely important. It definitely should not be broken sustainably. You see, once we've broken it, it can go pretty far down. We see the market makers really working here. At full speed, they perfectly capture the zone. It's really running smoothly here. In the last few days, we've had many great trades in the trading group that are going extremely well. Take a look. Really, very, 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 very nice. And for everyone who wants to anticipate this, the trading group is completely free. Signals are provided there. There, you'll eventually know how Bitcoin rises and falls. Definitely check it out, especially because it's free and you get a huge benefit from it. Everything about it is in the description. In the trading group, I've already shown you what we currently expect. There are currently two scenarios, according to the chart analysis, namely that we might come down here again, towards $81,000 to $82,000, then retrace and then rise again towards $85,000. Or we rise directly, retest again, and then continue. Both scenarios are possible. However, we are speculating more on this scenario. This is what I have already shared with you in the trading group. As I said, if you want to be the first to see when and how to buy certain things here, then definitely check it out. Recently, we also released coin tips on which coins you should buy now, according to chart analysis. And I know with SUI, like China, we are already partially there, 30-40% in profit. That's why you should definitely check out this huge added value. That's it for the charts. I mean, as I said, we are still in an upward trend. It is by no means a bear market yet. However, we have seen some positive news, like Trump announcing that no further tariffs will be imposed on China. The problem is simply that we are currently driven by news again, and we see that Trump, above all, completely manipulates the markets. No matter what he says, some of his insiders are trading in the background anyway. And he is just quite unpredictable. So tomorrow it could be announced that we are imposing 150% tariffs on China, and boom, we crash again. That's how the market is operating at the moment. That's why I would say that with the tariffs, we already have a positive turn with some, because we have this 90-day tariff pause. But he can also change his mind very quickly. It's also nice that since this big inflation increase, we are slowly seeing a decline. And we want to see these 2%. The latest inflation figures were at 2.4%, which is extremely good. When we reach 2%, the Fed has announced that more fresh new capital will come. But here's the thing now, we still have tariffs in the USA. Due to these tariffs, some things will probably become more expensive. Of course, they will become more expensive because companies simply pass these 10% tariffs onto the consumers. Accordingly, the products become more expensive, and people like Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, are expecting that we will see greater inflation in the United States again. If inflation rises again, that would be really bad for the markets, because then we will continue to see no new capital in the markets. That's why this is a significant danger that cannot be downplayed. Is there really a chance that we will see rising interest rates again? And then the last few months were really for nothing. And then this bull run will be extended even further. And on the other hand, we now see this every day. These images of global liquidity, how global liquidity is constantly rising. But one should be cautious here. This triggers FOMO again and such, I know. And I also like to show you this. It is indeed very positive. But if you compare global liquidity with the dollar, we see that we haven't received any fresh capital in the market so far, but rather that the US dollar has simply become much too weak. So the US dollar is currently really gaining strength. That's why global liquidity is rising. Because the US dollar is plummeting in relation to other currencies, it looks like we are getting new liquidity here. But that's not the case. In the end, if we're being completely honest, we are not getting any new liquidity here. It doesn't matter if the global M2 supply is rising, everything depends on the USA. Whether we see a money supply expansion in China or the Eurozone, it doesn't matter. Everything with Bitcoin depends on the USA. And currently we have no money supply expansion yet, and that's why I'm making this video, to show you that just because you see a few positive things on Twitter now, it doesn't mean we're immediately seeing the altcoin season or the bull run. No. But what I can tell you is that inflation has decreased. We are approaching those 2%. Now it really depends on how the next inflation figures look. That is really very crucial. Because by May we will see an end to this tightening one way or another. Monetary policy of the USA. That is extremely important, but that doesn't mean we will immediately get new capital into the market. It could also just mean that we don't do anything for now. Regarding monetary policy, first stagnate here as well. Because in recent years liquidity has only been drained from the markets all the time. However, it would be nice if we could slowly receive new liquidity in this regard. We would only get that if we now slowly see in the next inflation figures that we are roughly reaching 2%. Only then would we see an expansion of money. That's why a lot depends on it. Therefore, one should be a bit cautious. On one hand, we can see rising inflation due to tariffs. On the other hand, we have to see how Trump proceeds with the tariffs. Because if they abolish them now, it won't have a significant inflation impact. And on the other hand, many new jobs are currently being created in the USA, which is also good, as it could further combat inflation. However, one should not be misled by the global M2 supply or positive inflation figures, because as mentioned, both are still really stagnating. Both are still really up in the air. And that's what I want to share with you in this video. Ultimately, the foundation for a gigantic bull run is currently being laid, but this gigantic bull run is not happening in 1 or 2 weeks. The foundation is set, we will slowly see an expansion of money, which is extremely important for the crypto market. But the next inflation figures will decide whether it starts next month or in 3 months. Because this bull run is extremely strongly correlated with the bull run of 2017. Take a look at it. When you overlay the charts, we are almost running exactly like in 2017. And in 2017, we also had Donald Trump as president. Even the monetary policy was the same in 2017 as it is today. So really, we see an extreme correlation when a Republican is in power or a Democrat. So there is really a big difference. That is definitely something one should know. We are just running quite similarly to the bull run of 2017. And that's why one can already say, based on time and data, that we should see our bull run peak at the end of this year with an altcoin season, etc. At least it would be just like 2017. Here we should definitely wait for the next few weeks to see what the inflation numbers bring. What one must also consider now is that we are already on the verge of early summer, and during the summer, the crypto market didn't really perform well. It is always said, sell in May and go away, but remember, come back in September. And unfortunately, this saying is extremely true. It matches incredibly well. Almost every time in May we sold off, and by the end of the summer, one could re-enter, and we rose again. Unfortunately, this was almost always true, which is why the next few months will be very exciting. I could somehow still imagine a small summer rally, but not one that. Who knows how big it will be. I'm quite sure that we will not see a bull run peak in the summer. The whole thing will shift a bit later, but it also aligns with our numbers, data, and facts. Because this monetary policy also delays it a bit, they probably do it on purpose. But towards the end of this year, I am actually very optimistic about the crypto market. At this point, I hope you enjoyed it so far. You know what to do. Leave a like, a comment, and check out the VIP trading group. Until next time, friends. Bye.